Have you ever noticed how the hardest moments in your life, the ones where you felt completely lost, somehow led you to exactly where you needed to be? Not immediately, not obviously, but when you looked back months or years later, you could see it. The job loss that pushed you toward your real passion, the breakup that taught you what you actually deserve, the failure that revealed your true strength. What if I told you that this pattern isn't coincidence? What if there's a way to stop suffering through these moments and start trusting them while they're happening? Most people spend their entire lives fighting an invisible war. They're constantly battling against what is, trying to force reality into the shape they think it should take. They wake up anxious because life isn't matching their blueprint. They go to sleep worried because tomorrow might not unfold according to their plan. And in between, they exhaust themselves trying to control everything from other people's opinions to the timing of their dreams coming true. This is the problem we're addressing today. Not your circumstances, but your relationship with them. See, the real issue isn't that life is hard. Life has always been hard. The real issue is that you're making it harder by resisting what's already happening. You're like someone drowning who fights the lifeguard trying to save them. The struggle itself is what's pulling you under. And here's what makes this particularly painful. The more you try to control, the more out of control you feel. It's a vicious cycle that leaves you depleted, discouraged, and convinced that the universe is working against you. This is for anyone who's tired of fighting. If you're exhausted from trying to micromanage every detail of your life, this is for you. If you've been let down so many times that hope feels dangerous, this is for you. If you're in the middle of something confusing right now and you can't see the way forward, this is definitely for you. If you're someone who needs to know the how and when and why before you can relax, you need to hear this. If you've been told to just have faith, but you don't know what that actually means in practice, stay with me. But let me be honest about who this isn't for. This isn't for people who want a magic formula to avoid all discomfort. This isn't for those looking for a way to manipulate the universe into giving them exactly what they want, exactly when they want it. And this definitely isn't for anyone who thinks spiritual concepts are just pretty words without practical application. What we're talking about here requires something from you. It requires willingness, willingness to see things differently, willingness to let go of the illusion that your tight grip on life is keeping you safe. So let's talk about what trust actually means, because most people get this completely wrong. Trust doesn't mean sitting on your couch doing nothing and hoping the universe drops money in your lap. That's not trust. That's passivity. Real trust is active. It's taking the next right action without needing to see the entire staircase. It's making decisions from a place of inner knowing rather than external validation. It's moving forward even when you're afraid, not because you're fearless, but because you understand that fear is just energy asking you to pay attention. Here's the real life application. Let's say you just lost your job. The old way, the way of resistance, looks like this: immediate panic, endless catastrophizing, desperate applying to anything and everything, checking your phone every 5 minutes, comparing yourself to others who seem to have it together, and generally making yourself sick with worry. You can't sleep. You can't think straight. You definitely can't hear your intuition over the noise of your anxiety. You start making terrible decisions from this place of panic. You accept the first job offer that comes along, even though it pays less and feels like a step backward, because you're terrified of the gap in your resume. Or you stay paralyzed, sending out hundreds of generic applications because you're moving too fast to be strategic. Your relationships suffer because you're irritable and withdrawn. Your health declines from stress. And worst of all, you're so focused on what you lost that you completely miss the opportunities right in front of you. But here's what trust looks like in the same situation. You feel the fear, yes. You acknowledge the uncertainty. The anxiety is real and you don't pretend it isn't. But then you ask yourself a different question. Instead of, what if I never find another job? You ask, what is this making space for? You get curious about what you actually want, not just what feels safe. You take practical steps, of course. You update your resume. You reach out to your network. You do the work. But you do it from a place of curiosity rather than desperation. You stay open to opportunities that might not look like your original plan. Maybe someone mentions a field you've never considered. Instead of dismissing it because it's not what you do, you research it. You notice synchronicities, like running into an old colleague 3 times in one week and actually following up instead of writing it off as coincidence. You follow the breadcrumbs of interest and energy rather than forcing doors that won't open. You say yes to the coffee meeting even though you can't see how it connects to your job search. You take that online course that fascinates you even though it seems impractical. And here's what happens. Maybe you don't get hired right away. Maybe there's a delay that frustrates you. But then later, you discover that the company you were desperate to join just went through massive layoffs, and you would have been one of them. Or you meet someone during your unemployment who introduces you to a field you never knew existed, and it turns out to be perfect for your skills and pays twice what you were making. Or you have time to finally start that project you'd been putting off, and it becomes your new career, giving you freedom and fulfillment you never had before. The trust wasn't naive optimism, it was wisdom that knew something you couldn't see yet. Or let's take relationships. Someone you love leaves. Your heart is shattered. The resistance approach is clinging, chasing, trying to convince them to come back, stalking their social media, refusing to accept reality, making yourself small to fit what you think they want. It's torture. And it never works because you can't control another person's free will. You send that text you know you shouldn't send. You drive by their house hoping to accidentally run into them. You reconstruct every conversation looking for where it went wrong, as if analyzing it enough will change the outcome. You ask mutual friends about them. You keep their stuff as talismans, shrines to what was. You put your life on hold, refusing to move on because moving on feels like giving up. You compare everyone new to them and find everyone lacking. This is resistance, and it keeps you stuck in the pain indefinitely. Trust looks completely different. You let them go, not because you don't care, but because you understand that anything forced isn't real. You honor your grief without making it your identity. You cry when you need to cry. You feel the emptiness. You sit with the loss. But you don't build your life around it. You take time to understand what the relationship was teaching you about yourself. You notice the patterns that kept showing up, the red flags you ignored, the ways you abandoned yourself to keep the peace. You do the inner work. You ask yourself hard questions. Why did I choose this person? What wound in me was seeking healing through them? Where did I betray my own values or boundaries? What was I tolerating that I should have addressed? You journal. You talk to friends who tell you the truth. Maybe you see a therapist. You work on becoming whole on your own instead of looking for someone to complete you. And then something interesting happens. Either that person comes back, but by then you've grown so much you can see clearly whether they actually align with who you're becoming. You notice things you were blind to before, the incompatibilities you overlooked, the ways they couldn't meet your needs, and you realize the ending was a gift, not a punishment. or someone new enters your life who's a much better match, someone who appreciates you in ways the other person never could. Or, and this is often the most beautiful outcome, you discover a relationship with yourself that's more fulfilling than any external validation ever was. You become your own source of love, and from that wholeness, you attract completely different people. This is the original framing most people miss. The universe isn't a vending machine where you put in good behavior and prayers and get out exactly what you ordered. It's more like a jazz musician improvising with you. You play your part, you show up, you do your best, but you also leave room for the unexpected riffs, the surprising harmonies, the moments where the music goes somewhere you never could have planned, but turns out to be better than anything you imagined. Think about the best things in your life right now. How many of them happened exactly according to your original plan? Probably none. Most of the good in your life came from happy accidents, chance meetings, paths you didn't mean to take, doors that opened when others closed. That's not random luck. That's life responding to your energy, your openness, your willingness to dance with what is rather than insist on what should be. But here's where people get stuck. They hear this and think it means they should just accept terrible situations and never want anything better. That's not what I'm saying at all. You can want things. You should want things. Desire is the universe's way of calling you forward. The question isn't whether you have desires. The question is whether you're willing to stay open to how those desires might be fulfilled. The what can be clear. The how and when need to be flexible. Let me give you another real-life example. You want financial abundance. Great. The resistance approach is obsessively checking your bank account, feeling terrible about where you are, comparing yourself to others, believing there's one specific way money can come to you, rejecting opportunities that don't fit your narrow vision, and generally operating from scarcity consciousness even while trying to manifest abundance. It doesn't work because you can't create from lack. You can only create from wholeness. You constantly worry about bills. You see prices and immediately calculate whether you can afford it, reinforcing the story of not enough. You resent people who have more than you. You judge yourself for past financial mistakes. You stay in jobs you hate because you're terrified of losing security. You don't invest in yourself, your education, your growth because spending money feels dangerous. You hoard rather than circulate. You operate from a mindset of protect and defend rather than receive and expand. The trust approach is completely different. You get clear on what abundance would actually give you. Is it freedom, security, the ability to help others, creative expression, the power to make choices based on desire rather than obligation? Then you ask, how can I experience these feelings now, even before the money arrives? If abundance means freedom, where in your life are you already free? If it means security, what makes you feel safe right now? You look for where abundance already exists in your life. Maybe you're rich in time and health and relationships and creativity and knowledge and experiences. You start operating from that fullness. You practice generosity with what you have, whether that's your time, your skills, your attention, your compassion. You tip well, you share resources, you celebrate others' success instead of seeing it as taking from a limited pie. You notice where money is already flowing to you, even in small ways, and you appreciate it genuinely. That unexpected refund, that gift from a friend, that coupon that saved you money. You remove the blocks by healing your relationship with money rather than just trying to get more of it. You examine your beliefs. Do you think money is evil, that wealthy people are greedy, that you don't deserve it, that it will change you, that people will judge you? All of these unconscious beliefs block the flow. You rewrite the stories. Money is a tool. It amplifies who you already are. You're worthy of receiving it. You can handle it responsibly. You can do good with it. You take inspired action on opportunities that feel aligned, even if they're not the obvious path. Someone mentions they need help with something you're good at. You offer your services instead of doing it for free because you're afraid to value yourself. You start that side business you've been thinking about. You ask for the raise. You invest in that course or coach even though it feels like a stretch. You say yes to experiences that light you up instead of always choosing the cheapest option. And what happens? Your energy shifts. You start making different decisions. You're more attractive to opportunities because you're not radiating desperation. Employers, clients, and customers can feel when someone believes in their own value. You notice possibilities you would have walked right past before. You say yes to things that scare you a little but excite you a lot, and abundance starts flowing in ways you never expected. Maybe through that side project you started for fun that suddenly takes off. Maybe through a connection you made when you stopped forcing networking and started building genuine relationships. Maybe through an inheritance you didn't know was coming. Maybe through a skill you developed that's suddenly in high demand. The universe has 1,000 ways to deliver what you need. Your job is to be open to receiving it. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds great in theory, but what about when things are really bad? What about when you're facing genuine crisis, real loss, serious illness, devastating heartbreak? Does trust still apply then? Actually, that's when it matters most. Because resistance during crisis doesn't change the situation, it only adds suffering to pain. There's a difference between pain and suffering. Pain is what happens. Suffering is what we add through our resistance to what's happening. When you're in genuine crisis, trust doesn't mean pretending everything is fine. It means acknowledging exactly where you are while refusing to make permanent conclusions about temporary situations. It means taking things one breath, one moment, one day at a time. It means asking for help. It means being gentle with yourself. It means understanding that you're in the middle of the story, not at the end. It means having faith that you're strong enough to handle this even when you don't feel strong at all. I've seen people go through unimaginable loss, the death of a child, terminal diagnosis, bankruptcy, betrayal that shattered their whole world, and I've watched them make a choice that changed everything, not to be positive or fake happiness, but to trust that somehow, some way, they would find meaning in the darkness. They would survive. They would eventually, maybe not today or tomorrow, but eventually find their way back to life. And they did, not because the universe rewarded their faith, but because trust opened them to receive support, to notice grace, to access strength they didn't know they had. Here's what most people don't understand about divine timing. It's not about waiting for permission to live your life. It's not about sitting around until some cosmic alarm clock goes off. Divine timing means understanding that there are seasons to life just like there are seasons in nature. There's a time to plant, a time to water, a time to wait, and a time to harvest. When you plant seeds in winter, they don't grow no matter how much you want them to. But that doesn't mean nothing is happening. Underground, invisible to you, roots are forming. The soil is doing its work. The seed is transforming. You can't force spring to arrive early. You can't demand that the flower bloom before it's ready. Nature has its own intelligence, its own perfect timing, and so does your life. The problem is, we live in a culture that tells us we should have everything now. Instant gratification, 2-day shipping, fast food, quick fixes. We've forgotten how to wait with grace. We've lost the ability to be in the unknowing without making it mean something has gone wrong. In real life terms, this means that delays aren't always denials. Sometimes you're not ready for what you're asking for, not because you're not good enough, but because receiving it now would overwhelm you or take you off your path or come at a cost you don't yet see. Sometimes other pieces need to fall into place first. Sometimes you need to become someone slightly different, develop certain skills, heal certain wounds, meet certain people. The delay is part of the preparation. Think about athletes training for the Olympics. They don't wake up one day and compete. They train for years. The waiting isn't wasted, it's essential. Every day of practice is making them ready for that moment when everything aligns. They're building strength, developing technique, learning mental toughness, facing and overcoming obstacles. Without that preparation time, they wouldn't be ready for the pressure and demands of competition. The wait isn't keeping them from success. The wait is creating the success. Your life works the same way. Every experience is training, every delay is preparation, every no is redirecting you toward a better yes. That relationship that didn't work out, it taught you what you actually need in a partner. That job you didn't get, it freed you to find something better aligned. That financial setback, it showed you how to be resourceful and resilient. Nothing is wasted in divine timing. Everything is purposeful. But you have to cooperate with the process. You have to show up. You have to do your part. Trust isn't passive. It's not spiritual bypassing where you slap a positive affirmation on deep pain and pretend it's healed. Real trust requires you to be honest about where you are. Take responsibility for what you can control. Release what you can't, and remain open to possibilities beyond your current vision. So, what does this look like in daily practice? It means when anxiety comes, and it will come, you don't try to fight it or suppress it. You breathe through it. You place your hand on your heart and you say, I'm feeling scared right now, and that's okay. Fear doesn't mean I'm doing something wrong. It just means I care about the outcome, but I'm choosing to take the next step anyway. It means when plans fall apart, you pause before panicking. You ask, what's this making room for? What am I not seeing? What if this is actually protecting me from something? What if something better is trying to reach me, but this had to clear out first? It means when someone disappoints you, you feel the hurt, but you don't make it mean that you can't trust anyone ever again. You recognize that people are on their own journeys, doing the best they can with the awareness they have, and their behavior is about them, not about your worth. It means when success comes, you receive it with gratitude, but you don't grip it so tightly you strangle it. You enjoy it, you appreciate it, but you know your peace doesn't depend on keeping it forever because you trust that life will continue to provide what you need in each season. It means when you don't know what to do next, you get still, you listen, you pay attention to what energizes you versus what depletes you. You follow the thread of genuine interest rather than obligation. You trust your body's wisdom. You notice what doors open easily versus which ones you're forcing. This is the practice of trust. Not perfect, not always easy, but infinitely more peaceful than the alternative. Because here's the truth that will set you free. You've already survived everything that's happened to you so far. Every single thing, 100% survival rate, and somehow, often in ways you couldn't have predicted, things worked out. Maybe not the way you wanted, but they worked out. You're still here. You found a way. You adapted. You grew. You survived. So what if you could take that evidence and use it as foundation for trust going forward? What if instead of believing that this time will be the exception, this time everything will fall apart completely, you believed that just like before, you'll find your way? Not because you have all the answers, but because you've proven to yourself that you're resourceful, resilient, and guided by something greater than your conscious understanding. The invitation here is simple, but not easy. Stop fighting the river. Stop trying to swim upstream. Turn around. Face the direction life is flowing. Trust that the current knows where it's going. Take the next stroke, and then the next. Keep breathing. Keep moving. Keep trusting. Not blindly, not naively, but with the wisdom that comes from understanding you're part of something much larger than your individual story. You're not alone in this. You never were. Every person who's ever lived has had to learn this same lesson. Let go or be dragged. Resist and suffer. Trust and flow. It's always been the choice, and it always will be. The question is, what will you choose today? Right now, in this moment, will you clench or will you soften? Will you demand or will you allow? Will you fight or will you flow? Whatever you're going through right now, I want you to know something. It's not permanent. Nothing ever is. This too shall pass. But more than that, this too has purpose. You might not see it yet. You might not understand it for years, but one day you'll look back and you'll see it. You'll see how this moment that feels like an ending was actually a beginning. How this loss made room for something you couldn't have received if your hands were still full. How this delay was divine protection. How this pain cracked you open so light could finally get in. And when you see it, you'll realize that trust wasn't about being certain of the outcome. It was about being certain that there would be an outcome and that you would be okay no matter what it was. That's the peace that surpasses understanding. That's the faith that moves mountains. That's the trust that transforms everything. Not because it changes your circumstances, though often it does, but because it changes you. And when you change, your whole world changes with you. So take a breath, release your grip just a little. You don't have to figure it all out today. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to fix everything right now. You just have to trust that the same intelligence that created the stars, that makes flowers bloom and birds migrate and planets orbit in perfect harmony, that same intelligence is working in your life. It hasn't forgotten you. It hasn't abandoned you. It's orchestrating something more beautiful than you can imagine. Your job is just to show up, stay open, and trust the process. Because everything, and I mean everything, is working together for your highest good. Even this, especially this. The very thing you think is the problem might be the portal. The very thing you want to change might be the change itself. Trust it. Not because it's easy, but because on the other side of trust is a life more magnificent than anything you're currently trying to control your way into creating. And that life is waiting for you. It always has been. All you have to do is trust enough to receive it.